Hello everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Harbeen Arora for creating such a fantastic platform and her entire team for perfect execution. I'd also like to thank teams from all over the world, USA, Australia, Kenya, Netherlands, Fiji, UAE, Slovenia and Ecuador. I've been really looking forward to this edition of Women's Economic Forum, especially with a theme like resilience to recovery. We're all in the process of rebuilding and reimagining our world considering the pandemic and other global disruptions. Whether you're a student, an employer, an entrepreneur, a business leader or a policymaker, we all have a vested interest now in understanding how mental wellness, a critical coping mechanism, can be. Every time the topic of mental health comes up, people inevitably bring up this question. Why is there such a rise in mental health distress now in our modern world? I believe that this is because our brains have been evolving for thousands of years, but our environments have evolved faster. So most of our instinctive behavior and our brain's responses to situations are still rooted in patterns from our evolutionary past. It hasn't quite caught up to what we need now to survive in the hyper-connected, technology-fueled global village that we live in today. The onset of a mental health concern is attributed to a combination of genetic and environmental factors. That is how your brain is wired and how your learned responses to things based on your childhood and life experiences. So today, 1 in every 5 human beings is dealing with a mental health concern. Depression is the single largest mental health global concern globally, affecting over 264 million people. There are 2 ways in which our mental health today is tied to the evolution of our brain. In the book Good Reasons for Bad Feelings, Insights from the Frontier of Evolutionary Psychiatry, scientist Randolph Nesse explains that the mental responses and behaviors that served a purpose thousands of years ago no longer suffice for us in the modern world. I shall illustrate this with some specific examples as I go on. The second is that over thousands of years of evolution, our genetic code has developed glitches. A 2018 study in the American Journal of Human Genetics explains this puts some people at risk of developing mental health concerns like bipolar or anxiety, depression, OCD, etc. Adding to this evolutionary factor, there are elements of modern culture that require us to be or behave in a certain manner. This increases one's risk of developing a mental health concern. For example, organizations today need people who have greater attention to detail, can multitask, and can work in highly structured and organized environments. But hyper-focus of the ability to multitask can also make us vulnerable to anxiety when things don't go our way. So mental health concerns always exist on a spectrum. Your normal response becomes a disorder when it causes significant and sustained impairment or disruption in functioning or a significant distress. So how do we make sure that we stay on the safe side of the spectrum and prevent it from escalating into a disorder? I do believe that if we understand the evolutionary context behind our brain's responses, we could adapt them and train our minds towards a state of sustainable mental wellness. So let me illustrate this through some examples. So for example, stress and anxiety. When one faces some sort of danger or distress, certain parts of the brain activate what we know as a fight or flight response. Stress hormones are released, which allow your body to stay revved up and hyper alert. And once the threat passes, your brain then slowly deactivates these stress responses and your body relaxes. This worked great when our ancestors were dealing with threats like the occasional predator. But in the modern world, we're dealing with multiple stressors day in and day out and continuously. From the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, you're constantly dealing with a stressor one after the other. Even when you're in bed, you're thinking of all the things that must get done the next day. So your stress response is always on, and stress hormones are building up in your body, leading you to develop increasing levels of stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. So one needs to adapt and retrain the brain to deal with this new kind of stress pattern. So you need to mitigate this and you need to develop the right coping mechanisms. So, for example, I find that instead of multitasking, it helps to practice mindfulness and prioritize and finish off tasks one after the other. So, you take one task, finish it, and then move to the second. So, this creates a sense of closure for each task and lets the brain know that the stress response can be ended. In order to maintain a state of mental wellness, one also needs to take time to de-stress and reset periodically. Depression. Some studies say that depression evolved as a coping response to allow our primitive ancestors to rest and recover from extremely stressful situations. Because our environment has changed so much, we need to recontextualize our understanding of this response. One could look at being depressed as a state of needing deep rest from something in your life that is draining your energy. It may be a job, a relationship, a goal, or even an internal conflict with yourself. Scientists who've studied the evolutionary patterns of depression say that the visible symptoms of depression, like loss of appetite, energy, motivation, personality changes, are all meant to elicit help from family and close friends. Any one of us could face situations that cause us to experience these signs. To cope and manage it, one must find ways to recharge one's depleted levels. I also find it helps to maintain a social support system, friends and co-workers who can be there for each other during difficult times, to prevent this sense of loss and this sense of isolation or hopelessness, which can also trigger off a depressive episode. This also makes it extremely crucial for mental health awareness initiatives to not just help people understand their own mental states, but also teach people how to respond to signs of depression in people around them. Happiness. Over the centuries, our brain has perfected a delicate balance between the four chemicals to govern what we understand as the state of being happy. For most of us, one of the true challenges of being an adult is the ability to be happy, and so being aware of how these brain chemicals work can help us calibrate our happiness levels each day. The first chemical that I'm talking about is dopamine, which enables motivation, learning, and pleasure. Completing tasks, performing self-care activities, striving towards a goal, or creating something that can help increase dopamine in your body. Oxytocin enables feelings of trust and helps you build and sustain relationships. Playing with pets, children, or spending time with loved ones, or even getting a hug can make you feel so much happier thanks to the higher oxytocin levels. The next one we talk about is serotonin, which is related to the experience of social power, confidence, and self-acceptance. Having positive social interactions, light physical activity, exposure to sunlight, and eating healthy can all give a serotonin boost. And finally, you have your endorphins, which give you that feeling of euphoria that you can get that can make sure you laugh, exercise, play, or even eat chocolate. When we understand that a big part of mental wellness is understanding and balancing the brain's response to stressors, we can be better prepared to overcome them. By practicing better coping strategies over a period of time, one can also become more resilient. This could also help us reach a state of flow where one can experience steady productivity while feeling content and fulfilled. For me, my moments of peak flow happen when I'm on a cycling trip, for example, or when I'm spending time with my family, or when I'm with friends, or I'm in the middle of a brainstorming session with my team. So contrary to what one might assume, experiencing regular mental wellness does not mean that one must be happy and energetic all the time. Instead, I think what really one aspires for is to be in a state where the mind is at peace and can manage or mitigate stressors that come along the way. I do hope that these ideas that we've discussed today and I've shared with you help each one of you develop a better relationship with your brain and encourage you to learn more about your mental wellness. As we look at the next phase of evolution for human mental wellness, we must move towards the idea that mental wellness is not just the absence of an illness. It should be a positive state of being where one can engage in the productive pursuit of one's potential, one can cope with the changing stressors in life, and can make meaningful contributions to the world one lives in. As we look at making our workplaces more productive and our lives more meaningful, I hope that these insights into relationship between evolution, the brain and mental health can help you implement stronger frameworks for resilience and flow in your own lives and your organizations. Thank you.